Hi, I'm Chandler Klebs, and in this video, I want to talk about the video game Terraria. Terraria it has become my favorite game of all time now, and that's saying a lot because I've played a lot of games. But the reason I like this game so much is because it's not like it really has much of a storyline as far as I can tell. It's more about building your own world, you know. And so what I like to do in that game is I like to build houses out of dirt because this game has house building. And here's the key. At first, this is confusing to new players, but maybe this video will help people who are totally new to Terraria and how it works. Basically, you can build houses, and there's a wiki for Terraria and many resources that explain how to build houses. In fact, there's even a guide on Steam because the Steam community has a lot of guides. There's a guide on there about how to build houses. But here's how I build my houses. Basically, I build the frame of the house completely out of dirt. And then in order to make them an entrance, I use doors on either one side or sometimes on both sides because that's helpful to do that. Um, and then so there has to be an entrance, and it has to be sort of a closed shape, and then it has to have a table, a chair, and a light source. That's how I read it on the wiki, basically. So basically, if you have a torch and if you put either a table or a workbench, because a workbench counts as a table as well, and then you have a chair, then you have the basic requirements for a house. And it's very easy to build a house. If you just started the game, it's so easy to build a house. Because all you really have to do is chop down a bunch of trees. Because if you chop down a bunch of trees, because there's a lot of trees, then you can build the house entirely out of wood if you want. You can build the frame out of wood, even though I like to do it out of dirt for some reason. I think the reason I like to do it out of dirt is because then I can grow grass on my house. um, but you can build it out of wood or dirt or stone if you want. And then, oh, that's right, you also have to do walls. In order for one of the NPCs, the non-playing characters in Terraria, to move into your house, you have to have a background wall. And the best way, well, I don't know if it's the best way, but the easiest way to make a wall for your house, especially if you're beginning the game, is to build it out of wood. Because once you've built a workbench, which helps meet the requirements for a house, then if you're standing next to the workbench and you try to press escape, go into the menu, and craft more things, then basically there's an option to craft a wood wall out of wood, and you can also craft stone or dirt into their own walls. So I like to do wood walls for some reason. So yeah, you can do one of those walls, and later on in the game, you can even buy wallpaper from the painter that might move into one of your houses later in the game. But anyway, once you've got the wall, a torch, a chair, and a workbench, and a door to enter your house, well, then you've got a house. And at the start of the game, there's a guy named Andrew. Well, actually, I think his name was Andrew on my particular game when I first started, but I have another save file where it has a different name for the guide. But basically, once you have a house that's met all those requirements, then you go into your menu, you press escape, and then there's like a house icon. And then it shows you the NPCs that are currently on your game. And if you click them, and then you try to click where your house is, you can set an NPC to move into that house. And if something about the house is wrong, it won't let them move in. It'll say this is not valid housing or something like that. And sometimes it's not very clear what it means when it says it's not valid housing, but often I've found that that means that there's a part missing in the wall. That's what I've noticed in my experience, is that I made a wood wall, but there's one part where the wall hasn't covered and I missed it somehow. So that's one thing to check for. So anyway, you might be asking, well, why would you build these houses and have NPCs move into them? The whole purpose is that these characters won't join the game unless you build houses for them. And once they do, then there's all kinds of great things you can do. And one of my favorite characters in the game, one of the characters that joins you, is named is Dryad or something. She's like this green-haired woman that moves into your town, and she sells grass seeds and she sells acorns. And the point of buying acorns is because then you can plant a whole bunch of trees. Because if you can plant trees either on snow or on any dirt that has grass growing on it. So you can buy, you could buy hundreds of acorns and just plant them all over the whole world if you want. And then you can chop them down and get wood, meaning you have an unlimited supply of wood. And actually, that's one of the few resources that's unlimited, because most of the resources in Terraria, the blocks such as stone and dirt, there's a lot of it, but it's not infinite. There's still a limit to how much you have in your world. And for the most part, this isn't a problem, because if you run out of a certain type of resource in one world, it's not hard to just go into the menu at the beginning of the game, create a new world, and go mine and get those materials with a character, and then bring that character into another world. And so you can transfer stuff from one world into another world with no problem. And so sometimes this is helpful, I suppose, because if you are trying to build, say you're trying to build a house completely out of gold, and gold is kind of a rare ore to find, you could just keep making new worlds and mining them until you get all the gold you need. So, in practical, all the resources in the game are unlimited. So there's never that feeling of missing something. That's another thing I like about this game. But primarily, I just like this game because while it has, the crazy monsters that attack you like your average game does these days, you can build these houses, and you can grow mushrooms, you can grow trees, and you can dig, and you can just do all sorts of stuff. That's what's great about it. Is it's like it sure beats Metroid. Like, Metroid is a really great game. If you remember the NES Metroid or have played Super Metroid or some of those games are great because, they're like non-linear. There's not a set way you have to play the game. But basically, this is so much better because you're not just going around fighting monsters. You're basically building the world however you want. So that's what's great is Terraria is often compared to Minecraft. I've played a little bit of Minecraft, but it's so hard. I keep getting killed. I can't stand the three-dimensional aspect of it. I'm used to two-dimensional games. So Terraria has become my favorite game of all time. It's just awesome. It's not just, and besides being able to build your own world, it's amazing, partly because the music. The music is just so awesome too. And so yeah, I think if anybody hasn't heard of Terraria yet, my hope is that they'll find this video and that they'll try it out. And I believe at this point it's on sale for $9.99 on Steam. It runs through Steam, which is kind of good. Steam is kind of neat. And then there's also other versions. Supposedly it can be played on Microsoft Xbox, it can be played on PlayStation 3, and it can be played on iOS and Android cell phones and those sort of devices. So yeah, there's several different versions of it, and so it's actually a popular game. And when I last read the Wikipedia page, 12 million copies of that game had sold. So it's very popular. So that's my thoughts right now.